Los Angeles is burning. And the scope of this disaster is it's just unbelievable. 5 separate fires, over 35,000 acres just gone, and 11 lives lost, tragically.
Yeah.
AccuWeather's putting the potential price tag at, get this, $135 to $150 billion.
Wow.
Which would make this the most expensive fire damage in history.
Yeah, and I think what's so striking about this particular event is that these fires aren't just, out in the wilderness somewhere. They're tearing through neighborhoods, impacting people's lives in a very direct way. President Biden even described the aftermath as a war scene.
That is a powerful image. I've seen some of the pictures, and I mean, just homes reduced to rubble. I can't even imagine what it would be like to experience that kind of loss firsthand.
Yeah.
Did you see the reports about actor Mel Gibson losing his Malibu home in the Palisades fire?
I did. It really highlights the extent of the destruction and how these fires aren't just impacting, the wealthy or those living in remote areas. The reach is much wider. And it's not just the immediate aftermath, right? It's the long-term economic consequences, the displacement, the psychological toll on the entire community. It's immense.
It's almost like a ripple effect, right? And I mean, with the nighttime curfew and National Guard deployment, I mean, it's clear just how serious the situation is.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a critical situation. And I think it also raises some really important questions about how we're preparing for these types of events, especially with the increasing frequency and intensity of natural disasters.
Yeah, it feels like we can't just keep reacting to these events. We need to be doing more to prevent them, or at least mitigate the damage.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to look at, how we can build more resilient communities and how we can be better prepared to respond effectively when these disasters do strike.
Okay, so we have this backdrop of incredible devastation, but amidst the chaos, we're also seeing these amazing efforts to fight back. The firefighters are out there risking their lives to contain these fires. Can you talk a little bit about what's happening on that front?
Yeah, the firefighters have been working tirelessly, and there was actually a brief break in the winds on Friday, giving them a vital window of opportunity. They've managed to get the Palisades fire to 8% containment and the Eaton fire to 3%.
That sounds encouraging. Can you explain what containment means in this context?
Sure. It essentially means that firefighters have established a control line around a certain percentage of the fire's perimeter. They might be using bulldozers to clear vegetation, setting back fires, or dropping water and retardant from aircraft. The goal is to create a barrier that the fire can't cross.
So the higher the containment percentage, the better, right?
Exactly. It means the fire is less likely to spread further. But containment doesn't mean the fire is out. There's still a lot of work to be done to fully extinguish the flames within that contained area.
I see. So even with this progress, the situation is still pretty volatile.
Absolutely. The Calabasas fire is currently at 35% containment, but the winds are expected to pick up again, which could make it harder to keep those fires contained.
So it sounds like it's a constant battle, a race against time.
It really is. And this brings up a crucial question. Are we really equipped to deal with disasters of this magnitude?
Well, that leads us perfectly into some of the controversies that are beginning to surface around the response to these fires. I know LA Fire Chief Crowley has been very outspoken about the challenges his department is facing.
Yes, Chief Crowley has been very, very vocal about the fact that the fire department is understaffed, under-resourced, and underfunded. He's essentially saying they're not equipped to handle a disaster of this scale.
That's a pretty serious accusation, especially given the immense destruction we're seeing. What are some of the specific concerns that he's raised?
Crowley has pointed to a number of issues, including outdated equipment, a shortage of firefighters, and a lack of funding for training and preventative measures. He's essentially arguing that the city hasn't adequately invested in its fire department, leaving them ill-prepared for a disaster of this scale.
Yeah, that's concerning, especially given the predictions about the increasing frequency and intensity of these events due to climate change. Sounds like a recipe for disaster if we're not adequately prepared.
It's a major concern. And it's not just about having enough firefighters and equipment on hand when a fire breaks out, right? It's also about investing in things like forest management, community education, and early warning systems to prevent these fires from becoming so destructive in the first place.
It seems like there are multiple layers to this preparedness issue. So what are some of the other controversies surrounding the response to these fires? I know there were some issues with water pressure and evacuation alerts.
Yeah, those were definitely major issues. Governor Newsom has actually ordered an independent review of the city's water utilities. because apparently many firefighters arrived at hydrants only to find there wasn't enough water pressure, or in some cases, no water at all.
Wow, that's a critical failure during a fire emergency. It seems like there's some serious questions about the city's infrastructure and its ability to handle a crisis of this magnitude.
Absolutely. A
Mm.
reliable water supply is essential for firefighters to do their jobs effectively. This situation highlights a potential vulnerability in the city's infrastructure that needs to be addressed.
And what about the evacuation alerts? I remember hearing something about false alarms being sent out.
Yeah, there were reports of incorrect evacuation orders being sent to like millions of cell phones, causing a lot of confusion and chaos. In some cases, people were told to evacuate when they weren't actually in danger, while others who were in danger didn't receive timely alerts.
It's hard to imagine the stress and fear that those conflicting messages must have caused. A reliable alert system is crucial during an emergency, but it seems like that system failed in this case.
Yeah, and these issues with the water pressure and the evacuation alerts point to a broader concern about the effectiveness of emergency management during this crisis.
Hmm.
Accurate information and clear communication are essential during any disaster, but it seems like those elements were lacking in this situation.
So we have the immediate dangers of the fires themselves, and then we have these additional layers of complexity with the controversies surrounding the preparedness and response. It's a lot to process. And then there's the incident with the drone, which just adds another layer of
And
concern.
that drone incident was definitely a cause for alarm. Apparently, an unauthorized drone flew into the airspace where firefighting aircraft were operating, and it actually collided with a water-dropping helicopter, causing significant damage.
Wow.
Thankfully, no one was injured, but it could have been much worse.
It's a stark reminder that even in the midst of a crisis, seemingly small actions can have serious consequences.
Exactly. And this incident raises some important questions about the responsible use of drones, especially in emergency situations. The airspace around a disaster zone is already incredibly complex and dangerous, and adding unauthorized drones to the mix creates unnecessary risks for pilots and firefighters.
Yeah, it's a reminder that technology can be a double-edged sword, right? It can be a powerful tool for good, but it can also create new challenges and dangers if it's not used responsibly.
Precisely. And we need to be thinking critically about how we can mitigate those risks while still harnessing the benefits of technology in disaster response and preparedness.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from the devastation caused by the fires to the heroic efforts of the firefighters, the controversies surrounding the response and the added complications of technology like drones. It's a complex and multifaceted situation. Where do we go from here? What can we learn from all of this?
That's the key question. We need to be asking ourselves how we can be better prepared for these types of events, both individually and as a society.
What are some concrete steps we can take to move beyond just reacting to these disasters and start focusing on prevention and preparedness?
Well, on a societal level, we need to be having serious conversations about investing in our infrastructure, strengthening our emergency response systems, and addressing the root causes of climate change, which is contributing to the increased frequency and intensity of these wildfires.
Yeah, it sounds like a daunting task, but it's clearly essential if we want to avoid repeating these tragedies. What about on an individual level? What can we do in our own communities to make a difference?
There's actually a lot you can do. Even small steps can make a big difference. Start by making sure you have a plan in place for your own household in case of an emergency.
Like a go bag and a communication plan with family members?
Exactly. And think about ways you can make your home more fire resistant. Simple things like keeping your gutters clean and creating defensible space around your property can help.
That makes sense. It's about taking those proactive steps to reduce risks.
Right. And don't underestimate the power of community involvement. Get to know your neighbors, volunteer with local organizations working on disaster preparedness, or advocate for policy changes that prioritize these issues.
Yeah, it's about recognizing that we're all in this together and that collective action is essential.
Absolutely. And it's about staying informed. Understand the risks in your area. Pay attention to weather reports and know how to access reliable information during an emergency.
Speaking of information, we've talked about the spread of misinformation during these fires, particularly with that veiled swipe from Biden about incoming President Trump. How do you see that playing into the larger conversation about disaster response?
It's a critical issue. In a crisis, accurate information can be a lifeline. It helps people make informed decisions, stay safe, and connect with resources. But misinformation can spread so quickly, especially online, creating confusion, panic, and distrust.
So how do we combat that? What can you as our listener do to make sure you're getting reliable information, especially during a crisis?
It's important to be a critical consumer of information. Look for sources that are credible, transparent, and accountable. Check multiple sources to verify information and be wary of anything that seems sensationalized or too good to be true.
It's almost like having a healthy skepticism, especially when the stakes are so high.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to question information that doesn't seem right or that comes from sources you don't recognize. A little bit of healthy skepticism can go a long way in protecting yourself from misinformation.
This deep dive has really been eye-opening. We've explored the devastating impact of the LA fires, the heroic efforts of the firefighters, the controversies surrounding preparedness and response, and the role of technology and information in shaping our understanding of these events.
It's been a sobering but crucial conversation. And amidst the devastation and challenges, we've also seen incredible examples of resilience, community support, and innovation.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even in the face of immense challenges, there's always hope and the potential for positive change.
As you reflect on everything we've discussed today, I encourage you to think about your own community and the unique risks it faces. What steps can you take individually and collectively to prepare for and mitigate those risks?
Because the lessons we can learn from these fires, they extend far beyond Los Angeles. They're a call to action for all of us to prioritize preparedness, resilience, and community engagement in the face of an increasingly unpredictable world.
And remember, even small actions can make a difference. By staying informed, taking proactive steps, and working together, we can build a future where our communities are not just surviving, but thriving, no matter the challenges we face.